Let's come back to the thesis of this conversation, which is meat. We're defending meat in all different cases. It started out with type 2 diabetes, then we moved into saturated fat. The other big one that comes up is cancer. So for somebody who's been avoiding that, adopting a plant-based diet or a high amount of plants in the diet because of that, let's debunk that one.
Okay. So all of the research showing or implying that eating red meat or eating processed meat increases your risk of colon cancer. And that's the most common cancer that people are going to talk about from eating red meat or eating processed meat, eating bacon. Well, again, that's an extraordinary claim because we've been eating red meat the entire time we've been here, right? So you better have really good evidence to support that. Well, the World Health Organization actually came out and said that processed meat is a probable carcinogen, and that red meat is a possible or probable carcinogen. The World Health Organization, they would never say something like that without having just concrete evidence. Now, if the average person believed what I just said, could you blame them? It's the freaking World Health Organization. Of course, you're going to just believe that they would never say anything unless they've got black and white proof. Well, the research that they use to make that recommendation is exactly the same kind of research that they use to say that type 2 diabetes is caused by red meat or that heart disease is caused by red meat. It was observational epidemiological research, prospective cohort studies where they would follow a large amount of people. But there's all these biases that can get into that kind of research. There's healthy user bias that we talked about. There's the researcher's preconceived notion. What the researcher believes can actually leach into the research results if you don't blind the study. And that's why we talk about double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled, randomized controlled trials, is because you not only don't want the participant to know if they're getting the real thing or the placebo, you also don't want the researcher to know. There's a reason we do double-blinded studies, Jesse, and it's because not only will the participant cheat, the researcher will also cheat because at the end of the day, they're both just dudes and chicks. They're both just humans, and everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be right, and everybody wants to get paid. That's just the truth of the matter, and that's not evil. That's just human nature. We all want to get paid and go home and have fun. Well, for a researcher, if they've got a hypothesis, you read the research enough, Jesse, to know that if you do a study that disproves your hypothesis, known as a negative study, you know how many of those get published in large, high-impact journals? Virtually none, right? Virtually none. Nobody wants to publish a negative study that didn't prove anything, right? They want to publish positive studies that have a high impact that people are going to go, wait, what? Then you can put an article in the New York Times saying red meat causes diabetes, and everybody will read that and click on your link. And you'll have your paper will be a super high impact paper, and you'll be famous and you'll get a raise. Yeah, researchers are susceptible to the same exact temptations as every other human on the planet. So we have to blind the researchers so they don't know either, especially when we're doing drug trials. Now, you can't really do double-blinded randomized controlled trials with food because people know whether they're eating bacon or whether it's not bacon. You can tell. And the researcher can tell from the smell whether it was bacon or placebo bacon. So you can't do that, but you can design studies that effectively tie the hands of the researcher, if not blind the researcher. Such as the study that I intimated earlier. Let's take 100 carnivores and 100 vegans and let's follow them for the next 5 years. It's going to be real hard to cheat there because if you try to give a carnivore broccoli, they're going to know. And they're going to say, no, I ain't eating that. And if you try to give a vegan bacon, they're going to say, no, I ain't eating that, right? It's hard to trip that study up. That's why I predict it'll never be done. Does that answer the question, or do we need to go further?
No, that's good. And it seems like, yeah, we've been debunking all these different myths when it comes to red meat.
Let me say this, Jesse. I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me say this. I'm not even trying to debunk a plant-based diet. I'm actually not even trying to promote a carnivore diet or a ketogenic diet. I'm just saying, with regards to this study that everybody's hearing about right now, I'm just saying, not even as a scientist, just as a layman, don't come at me with an extraordinary claim unless you've got extraordinary evidence to back up that claim. I think that's a rational request that I think every human has a right to say, don't come at me with some extraordinary claim. Oh, drinking water's bad for me. Oh, breathing air is bad for me. Oh, eating red meat's bad for me. My species has been doing all three of those things for the same length of time. Don't come at me telling me that now water or air or red meat's bad for me unless you have some damn good research. Otherwise, you're wasting my time. At best, you're wasting my time. At worst, you're tricking me into eating the high carb, highly processed, highly inflammatory crap that's made by Kellogg's and Post and General Mills and Mondelez and PepsiCo and Coca-Cola. You're actually harming my health when you come at me with an extraordinary claim with no research to back that up. You're actually doing humanity a disservice. You're not doing anybody a service except for the big corporations who are now going to make everything out of plants and make $1 billion profit. Now, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, Jesse. I want to believe that everybody has good intentions. But at some point, when Harvard School of Public Health keeps coming at me and my patients and my followers with extraordinary claims that red meat is the devil, at some point, we all, as rational adults, have to go, what's their motive? Why are they doing that?
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
Any disease you can think of that's chronic and progressive, it's being caused by hyperglycemia, hyperinsulinemia, and chronic inappropriate levels of inflammation. Your default setting is good health. And if you're not enjoying good health,